What is up, guys? Fadeaway82 coming at you with another edition of Rust Cribs. This footage is from the US Rustopia server, which is a vanilla Rust server with a 1-week wipe cycle. What that means for this footage is that these bases were put together in a 1-week time period by players on a server that did not have an increased gather rate. Right off the bat, we're taking a look at a base that is both aesthetically pleasing and well fortified. You might wonder what the triangles are on the ground, and those are high exterior stone walls that are being used to section off auxiliary building cabinets to extend out the building privilege. God was certainly not dead at Rustopia this go-round, and spirituality was being expressed with crosses sprouting out of bases and also the landscape. We also saw some religious-themed artwork and different references, even if it wasn't to the God we were expecting, and that was really cool to see in Rust because Rust is a game that is very much open to interpretation and to free speech. The church of Sneaky Pete looks a bit ominous at night with the red glow of the code locks looming in the night sky, but as you can see here, Sneaky Pete put a cross on top of his base this wipe cycle, and that was really cool to see. Again, on vanilla Rust servers, we often will see things that could potentially trigger people, like Nazi signs or big dicks or something like that painted on a sign, so you never know what you're going to see or encounter. And Rust, again, is a game that is very much allows players this forum for free expression. So it's nice to see crosses that could trigger people too, but these crosses were well protected by anyone who tried to blow them up by this large compound here, which housed a massive clan. So they would roll out if those crosses were attacked, and that became part of the narrative of this wipe cycle, was protecting those points. So that was purely player driven, but very much in line with the holiday season, and it was fun to see in Rust put together by players. Transitioning over here, we are taking a look at the TRB compound, which was a really cool base design, one of the coolest that I've seen in a while. And looking at it, you might wonder why it has triangles out of the top of it, and those are ledges that players can go out on to shoot from, and they'll also absorb incoming rockets. These players knew how to build, but they also knew how to unwind, and they were big into recreational activities and also painting. They painted a vagina with teeth lashing out tentacles onto dicks, which was pretty stunning. But again, the focus here should really be on the base, and it was sprawling, massive, and something that really was pronounced in the landscape. It has a very cool symmetry to it, and I just think it was one of the really most unique base designs I've seen in a while. So notice it has a build up to it, and then the twig tiles going over the twig floor pieces. So it has a bridge that's built up into it, and that's something that was really cool. This base had a very ingenious build to it. We can't show you the inside, but it was really unique. The players here stopped for a photo op before they rolled out to a raid, so it was cool to catch that moment. And I'm not sure how the raid went, but they certainly were well geared and certainly uniform with those safety crew hoodies. Moving on over, we're taking a look at Shrek's base. Shrek and DMG were very paranoid this wipe cycle, as you can see by the amount of high exterior stone walls and gateways. This was for good reason, though. They have had to fend off massive amounts of people in the past few wipe cycles, so they were well prepared and put their resources to good use. Notice that there's one tower here which is going to allow them to have a 360-degree firing radius, but they also focused on a perimeter flank tower as well. But the prime takeaway here is the amount of high exterior stone walls and also gateways that we're seeing employed in this base design. That's sort of Rust in a nutshell, being overly paranoid, and DMG again had valid reasons for doing that. I think it was an awesome base design, and it really is cool to see it from this overhead perspective and to get that look at it. Moving on over, we're taking a look at our friends from Korea, the UR clan. They have a base design that's really unique unto itself. I haven't seen anything like it. It had some very interesting concepts to it in terms of how you access the main base, and it has a very distinct aesthetic to it. The base itself was built in an isolated area, so they use the geography, the topography of the map to the best of their ability, and that's something, guys, that we don't often think about in Rust, but it's really important to build your bases in parts of the map that you have a very, inherent advantage, if you will, because to take the map for granted is something that can really give you problems on certain seeds and is something you never really want to take for granted. So moving on over, we're taking a look at CML's compound. CML, they're a master of sort of terraforming the landscape with their bases, and they have built a sprawling compound, as always, one that is well integrated into the landscape. Notice they have a main base, but they also have perimeter towers here which serve as flank towers, but also buildings that have their particular purposes. So a crafting room, with furnaces, and then rooms for supplies. Lots of artwork dotted the landscape here. CML is a group that interjects a lot of lore and motifs into their base designs that you see from wipe cycle to wipe cycle, which is really cool. But the most pronounced part of this base design, it's smaller than typical for CML, but it was a tower that was sprouting out of the middle of the landscape, which gives them a very nice vantage point. Inside the base itself, it was very well fortified, and due to some unique building designs, they were able to have some areas that gave them some extra room and space. CML has always been a group that employs a lot of workers, or slaves as they're referred to. They have a well-defined, well-oiled machine when it comes to building a compound. So they attack the seed. They don't just build, they attack the seed with their slaves and with their people who have other purposes, players who have other purposes, and really get these compounds up and running. The slaves are integral for doing that, and if you're a slave in CML, you might rank high enough to sleep on the floor, or you might have to sleep under the foundations. Moving on over, guys, we're not taking a look at bases particularly here, but these are towers that I wanted to just show off that dot the landscape. We hear about them on Reddit posts, we hear people complaining about them, but they're towers that you are used to sort of control or oppress parts of the map. And here's another example of a tower that was built by the Dome Monument. This one actually metastasized into a larger tower, as we'll see in a moment. But I wanted to say that about these locations, that they're really part of the player-driven narrative in the game too. And I don't ever want to see systems in the game where players can't do things like this. Sure, it's annoying to be trying to be in those areas, but I think that there's certain areas that should always be contested. If you don't like the towers, band together and take them out. This nice tight butthole compound here is from the URXP clan. We haven't seen them recently on Rustopia, but it looks like they're back, and I really like their use of land management here. They had a part of the map that was they could call their own, and that was really awesome. This compound, guys, I didn't catch who built it, but it had some unique design elements to it and was really cool, so wanted to show it off. While we go ahead, guys, and wind this episode down, I just wanted to talk about building in general. People always like to see smaller base designs, but in terms of building in Rust, don't get turned off by large compounds. Large compounds can get raided very easily. Any compound in Rust, large, small, any base, any size, is probably going to get raided in Rust. So just have fun in Rust. You can actually join a server at any point in time. You don't have to worry if you didn't get on at the start of the wipe cycle. You can get a small base up and running, have fun with your friends, have a good time. Don't get too attached to things. You will get raided. It's not a chance of, will you, but you absolutely will. Roll with the punches, have fun with your friends, and build bases that are just functional and fun, and they don't have to be anything that's going to really be too well protected, because they're going to get raided anyways. So just wanted to take a moment to stop and say that, and to say that, don't get turned off by the large compounds and the clans, because it's fun to play with your friends, guys, and Rust isn't always about who has the biggest base. It should be about who's having the best time with the game. And you can have a lot of fun in Rust, whether you're a small player, with a small group, or you're a solo player on top of a mountain yourself, like this person here. So experience the game for what it is. Don't get too hung up on your compound size. That's just a dick measuring contest. There's a lot of fun to be had in Rust. You can have furnaces underwater like we're seeing here, which I didn't realize, but that's pretty cool stuff. And as we go ahead and pan out, guys, really hope you enjoy the Rust Crib series. As always, this series is not meant to show you how to build the bases or show you the tricks on the inside, but it's meant to show you some concepts. I'm hoping that you guys can deconstruct the ones you like. If you have any questions for the base builders, go ahead and leave them in the comments. They do look at them. As always, had a lot of fun making the video. Fado82, peace.